The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Welcome to the bonus show. This John McCain story is not going away for the White House. They are having a whole series of problems after a White House staffer reportedly said they don't need to worry about John McCain's opposition to CIA director nominee Gina Haspel because he's going to die soon anyway. And of course, John McCain is fighting brain cancer, and the White House has continued not to apologize. Raj Shah said that they have dealt with it internally. And this just seems like a total misstep. Like, just apologize for it. Gina Haspel, I'm sorry, what's the woman's name? Now, Sadler.
Sadler.
Yes, Ms. Sadler, whose first name I forget. She reportedly apologized to the McCain family. The White House should have just apologized for it and moved on, and they haven't, and it seems to only be getting to be a bigger and bigger issue. And reportedly today, Trump had lunch with Republican lawmakers, and it was expected that they were going to say, listen, we're just not happy with this.
It seems like such an easy thing to do, to apologize on behalf of someone else, because it's not like you're personally taking the culpability.
Yeah.
It's on your whole organization.
Yeah.
So it would be easy if Trump could just say that he apologized for the comment, or Raj Shah, or Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And this is how they turn a one-day story into a seven-day story, by not even addressing it.
Maybe it's deliberate because it's covering worse stories. Is it possible, like with the Rudy Giuliani Cohen stuff, that they'd rather be seen as liars than lawbreakers? Maybe they would rather be seen as insensitive to John McCain than as whatever story it is that's not getting coverage as a result of them not apologizing.
Yeah, great point, because this, I think, is a real indictment on the media. Sure, this comment was crass and it never should have been said, but it shouldn't be taking up the majority of our 24-hour news cycle. Like, there are bigger fish to fry out there.
And that's why we haven't covered it. I mean, it's a disgusting story of more just this bottom-feeding, sniping, call it whatever you want, political world that has been fomented by the atmosphere of the Trump Oval Office and White House. It's you know, the Stormy Daniels story relates to possible crimes. It relates to all sorts of stuff that, although it's salacious at face value, I believe it's actually relevant to the operation of our government. This is like when Trump made fun of the disabled reporter. It's disgusting and crass, but I don't know that it warrants that much time on the show, which is why we're now really talking about the PR mistake that the White House has made on the bonus show 5 or 6 days in.
That's essentially the whole reason why we're talking about it. And another interesting point on this is that, yeah, sure, she absolutely shouldn't say that because it's insensitive, but it's a statement of fact, right? I mean, she's trying to make a joke and it fell flat, as it should have. Compare that to what Trump said, that John McCain isn't a war hero because he was captured. That's not only just as crass, it's also not true. And there's a double standard, too, because Trump himself was a draft dodger. So I think what Trump said is a lot worse, and yet this seems to be getting a lot more attention.
Yeah, and apparently part of the reason for the attention is also that Sadler called Meghan McCain privately and said she would apologize publicly, but we've not heard a public apology. So maybe that's part of why it's not going away, because they also appear to be liars.
She's still working there, too.
She's also still working there, yeah. This is, you know, I do think that there is a pick your battles type of thing, and I'm glad that we got a few minutes to talk about it on the bonus show. But this definitely is one where, listen, these are disgusting people, and them being disgusting people is part of the reason why we should vote them out in November. But there's also substantive policy reasons to vote them out in November. And if either way I'm advocating for voting them out in November, I'm going to focus on the acute policy issues, at least for now.
Yeah, and 1 minute talking about this story is 1 minute we don't have to talk about North Korea or Israel or Michael Cohen or any of these other topics we should be talking about.
We should be talking about net neutrality, which I am going to talk about now. And Senate Democrats, finally, we've been talking about the possibility of this vote coming. I think at this point for months we've been talking about it. Senate Democrats will be able to force a vote tomorrow to repeal changes to net neutrality rules, which were adopted by the Trump crony-run Ajit Pai FCC. And it's backed by 49 Democrats and Republican Susan Collins, who all along we thought could be one of the Republicans that backs it.
Yeah, we got to get Lisa Murkowski on board, too.
That would be nice. Expected to pass in the Senate. But, as I said before, it's not going to pass the House, right? I mean, there's just no way that this passes the House.
No way it's going to pass the House, and I think they're at 50 votes in the Senate now, too. So even if they're stuck at 50, Mike Pence is going to be the tiebreaker, and it'll die right there.
Although the reports are that it's believed that there's going to be some 51st vote. Who it is, I don't know at this point. And this is the debate we had when this first came up, which is if you manage to struggle to get the 51 votes you need in the Senate and you pass this thing, we know that the House isn't going to pass it. And if by some amazing turn of events it passes the House, Trump's going to veto it. So what is the value of this? And what we sort of came up with was there's value for future campaigns, like in November, where you can now start to attack people who didn't support it and try to use that to get them knocked out of office. That there is value to that. Whether it warrants months of trying to force the vote, I don't know. I really don't know.
Oh, I think that net neutrality could most definitely be a voting issue for people.
Yeah.
Especially those who aren't otherwise involved in politics. Maybe they're more into tech and electronics, and this just really isn't their thing.
Maybe they're part of the intellectual dark web.
Yeah, I mean, if they see a list of Republicans who voted in support of gutting net neutrality, they're going to make it a point to not vote for them when the election comes around.
I hope you're right. I just don't know. I mean, I hope that net neutrality is a voting issue for people who don't normally vote, because it is really a turnout game, especially in the midterms, right? The turnout is so pathetically low in general in this country, but especially in the midterms, that turnout can swing it.
Yeah.
I just don't know if it's going to activate people.
And this is going in a bit of a different direction, but we talked about what is and what is not a voting issue for people.
Yeah.
And we talk about, we had Bill Scher on the program. He said that for Democrats, guns, abortion, not really their thing. That's not going to drive people to the polls. But contrast that to the Republicans. If you're a card-carrying NRA member, you're going to be a single-issue voter on guns. It seems. If you're an evangelical, maybe you're going to go with abortion. I don't know if Democrats necessarily have those single-issue topics. Maybe one would be like Medicare for all or free college. But if there is one, I think it's being in support of net neutrality. I think that's probably up there.
I think it is. It's just the question of whether it's a voting issue for non-habitual voters. And I guess we'll just see. We'll see what the turnout ends up being. Lolade Sianbola is a Yale University graduate student whose classmate called the police on her last week because she was napping in the common area of their dorm. And she said that she wants consequences for individuals who call 911 with a racially motivated bias. And the individual who called the police in this case is Sarah Brosh. She's a graduate student in the philosophy department. She's white, and she called the police saying that you cannot sleep in that room, that there was someone sleeping in a room that they're not allowed to sleep in. And police arrived, and of course it became a huge thing, particularly because it was filmed by Sarah Brosh. Sarah Brosh saying she was filming it for her own safety, which of course was also perceived as a comment with racial undertones, that a sleeping black person somehow presents some kind of physical risk such that she needs to be filming them in case something were to happen. This is just absolutely horrifying in every way, and I don't know what to make of it beyond, yes, it is another example of a person of color having the police called on them for seemingly no reason / a reason weak enough that a white person would not have had the police called on them. Like, does Sarah Brosh call the police if she sees a white person sleeping in that room? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is like a subconscious racist sentiment that she has too. I think maybe, she goes to Yale. Maybe she is actually a smart person and isn't outwardly racist.
Smart is different than having biases.
Yeah,
I think you can be very smart, and it would have no bearing whatsoever on whether this is someone that harbors racial resentment.
Yeah, and I think if you asked her, she would say that she does not harbor any racial resentment, and yet you see what the actions are. She saw a black woman sleeping in the common area and decided to call the police. I mean, but what could possibly be like the repercussion for that? I mean,
well, that's the thing. Is that even a crime? Like, I don't know.
Well, you can't misuse the 911 service.
Oh, no. Well, I thought you were saying what could be the repercussions for sleeping in a common area. Like, that's clearly not a crime, right?
Yeah, like
you could say someone is loitering, but if that's a student of the school, then they're not really loitering.
Oh, if anything, it's just against university policy too, and they would handle that internally. But what would they even do? Give her a warning? Tell her to sleep in a room?
It seems very weird.
If I came across that, I would be like, oh, that's kind of weird.
So then
I'd keep moving.
You were getting to the other issue, which is misuse of the 911 system. I don't know whether that's something people are commonly ever punished for. I think state laws vary on that. But using the 911 system with a racial bias, how do you possibly adjudicate that, right? Like, I'm against what's going on. I don't like what happened at Starbucks, of course. I just don't know that there's a way to make a law that would really address what it is we're trying to solve in society.
I don't think so either. And, a lot of criticism is going out to the police officers, too, because I get it. Like, they received a phone call. They want to investigate a little bit. And the rules are a little bit different when the police are called on you versus if they just arrive on the scene on their own.
Certainly.
So I understand that. Like, they wanted to check her ID, but it seemed like they went down this rabbit hole of seeing that there was an inconsistency between how she spelled her name and what it said on the ID. And it was, like, slightly off. And they decided to, like, investigate further on this. It just took the whole thing way too far. And you can see the video.
Yeah.
There certainly is some racial motive there.
It's there's no question about that. There's no question about that. And then the broader question is, do we want to systematize racially tinged use of the 911 system? I don't know the answer to that. I'm open to suggestions from the audience. Real quick, we did talk about this on the regular show today. If you want to show my shirt on camera 3, Pat, I've got my Very Stable Genius shirt. These are available on our website. Pat is wearing a shirt which has Donald Trump's hair, and it's part of Trump's quote about this thing called nuclear weapons and things that can be done with uranium that are bad things. And we've got a bunch of different, there are now 6 different designs at davidpakman.com/gear. We've already shipped these. Before we even announced that we were offering these, people started seeing them on the website, and we've sent them all over the world already. Australia, London, all over the U.S. These things are flying around literally on airplanes.
They're like Pokemon. I want to collect them all.
Collect them all, absolutely. And most of the shirts are available in anywhere from like 8 to 14 different colors. So many, many options. Check them out, davidpakman.com/gear. Funny pictures of people wearing the shirts are very likely to make it onto the show. Yeah. That's a very clear thing. I want to be super, super upfront about that. Check out the shirts. We'll be back tomorrow.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.